So this section combines what you did last chapter, and by that I mean chapter 9 when you were with me, and what we just did here. So we want to make it look like this. But in order to make it look like this, we're going to have to factor. So when we're going to factor, what we're going to do is we're either going to think, we're going to either do a backwards box, we're either going to do a 1 by, or we're going to do a 2 by. So the first thing we have to look to see is, do they have something the same? That has an X, but that doesn't. So I'm going to do my 2 by. Remember how it goes. First guy, last guy, circle it, 6. All the ways to multiply to get 6 are 1, 6, and 2, 3. My goal is to get the center of 7. I can do that with a 1 and a 6. So I have 1x and 6x. Remember, when there isn't a number in front, this is when I can just bring it up and bring it up. So now I have x plus 1, x plus 6. Now it says equals 0. Set it equal to 0. X equals -1. X equals -6. So let me say it one more time. On the previous page, you already had it in factored form, so you just set it equal to 0 and you were done. But here, you're going to have to factor it and then set it equal to 0. Let's try the next one. Do they have something the same? X, X, no X, 2 by. First guy, last guy, circle it. Make sure you don't forget the negative. -10. Don't even worry about the negative. Just think of all the ways to get 10. Now the goal is to get a +3. The way I can get a +3 is for the 5 and the 2. Since this is positive, the bigger guy's positive, so that's smaller. Since this is a 2, I want to give this a 2. I like to line it up. The problem with this problem versus this one is this one, there was just an X, so I could bring it out. But since there's that number in front, what I'm going to have to do is break it down. So I have a 2, an X, a -2 times 1X. Circle the 2, circle the X, 2X whoosh. I'm left with the X minus 1. 1 times what gives me 5, and that's +5. Now I'm left with 2x plus 5, x minus 1 equals 0. So now this looks like the previous page. Set that equal to 0, that's 1. I feel like that one's easier for me to do in my head, but this one I might have to show work. So 2x plus 5 equals 0. Let me zoom that in a little bit. Subtract 5, 2x equals -5, divide by 2, x equals -5 over 2. Okay, let's go to the next one. In the next one, what you see is they actually all have a 5. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to divide it by 5, divide it by 5, divide it by 5, divide it by 5. As long as I do it to all of them, I'm good to go. Now I have x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. This has an x, this has an x, this doesn't. Do my 2 by. First guy, last guy, circle, 2. The only way to get 2 is 2 and 1. And since this is negative, they're both negative. So if this is positive, then the signs need to be the same. If this is negative, then only one of them is negative. So now I get my two numbers, -1x, -2x. Because it's just an x, x, -1, -2. X minus 1, x minus 2 equals 0. Set it equal to 0. X equals 1. Set it equal to 0. X equals 2. 2 more, and then I'll let you get started. So I think for number 4, because I've kind of made a mess and I want to make sure that you're clear, is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write down the problem. So we're going to do number 4. 16x squared minus 1 equals 0. I need to look and see if they have something the same. This has an x, this doesn't. Boom, 2 by. First guy, last guy, circle, multiply. All the ways to get 16, don't worry about that. Oh, but there's something different. Remember, if there's nothing in the center, you square root it. And when you're square rooting it, don't worry about the negative. The square root of 16 means what times what is 16? One's positive, one's negative. Because I have a number in front, I can't just skip the steps like I did here. I have to do all the work because there's a number in front. So let me make that clear. When there is a number in front of that x squared, like I see it here, I know I'm going to have to go the long way. But when I didn't have a number in front, like I had this x squared, I could do it a lot more quickly. Okay? So let's go back to this problem. So I'm going to go 4x, negative 4x. So I'm going to go here, 4x, 4 times 1x, 4x, 4x whoosh. Bring up the 4x. Bring up the positive 1. 1 times what gives me negative 1. So now I'm left with 4x plus 1, 4x minus 1 equals 0. Set them equal to 0. I don't think these are as easy to see in my head, so I'm going to show all my work. If you just see it, I don't care. You can just go straight to the answer at this point, but make sure you're correct. Because if you're incorrect and you don't show me any work, then you're just wrong, and I have no idea why. X equals 1/4. So for number 4, x equals 1/4, and x equals negative 1/4. I'm going to do number 5 as well on separate paper because, again, I feel like I didn't leave much space. So number 5 is 4x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. Since I see a number in front, I know I'm going to have to do the backwards box the long way. First guy. Last guy, circle it and multiply. 2, 2, and 4, 1. My goal is to get a negative 4, and that works when you add 2 and 2. Since this is positive, but that's negative, they're both negative. So in this case, it doesn't really matter where I put it. When I break down the 4, 2, 2x, negative 2 times 1x, 2, 2x, 2x whoosh. Bring up the 2x and the negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. So I'm left with 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1. But when you set those both equal to 0, you get the same answer. Or you could have written it as 2x minus 1 squared. But that confuses people sometimes. So just solve it. Divide by 2, x equals 1/2. So in this case, because they're the exact same thing, you actually only have one answer. All right? So now what I'm going to have you do are these 12 problems, 10 through 21. Okay?